You know what? Let me drop the too cool for wrestling facade for a minute. I really love making lists of best opening matches. The Mania one was super fun, and I'm hoping that Lovely Tempest will ask me to do one of these for every Big Four pay-per-view. Why? Because it's a chance to go and watch a bunch of matches that don't get talked about to death. Main events, they've all been done. Celebrity matches, they've all been done. Worst matches, oh my god, they've all been done. But talking about good opening matches, that's a chance to go back and watch some really solid 3.5 to 4-star wrestling matches that I might not have seen in absolutely yonks. And for those that aren't British but are curious, one yonk is roughly equal to 3 ages plus a donkey's year. Let's head back in time and look at some of the best curtain jerkers and mid-carders most trusted to kick off the biggest party of the summer. I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown, and here are our 10 greatest SummerSlam opening matches ever. Number 10, 1-2-3 Kid versus Hakushi, 1995. I complain about SummerSlam 1995 all the time, and for good reason. Here are some of the matches. Former WWE champion Bret Hart versus the fucking dentist, Undertaker versus Wish.com UFC, Cowboys versus Nazis, Diesel versus Mabel. Every goddamn summer I mention it, but as much as it pains me to admit it, there are 1 or 2 bright spots on this top 3 worst SummerSlam of all time. Shawn versus Razor 2, Electric Boogaloo Ladder, and the opening match pitting the man who would be X-Pac, 1-2-3 Kid, versus Hakushi, a fighter whose gimmick was that he was covered in protective kanji, apparently after Japanese folkloric minstrel Hoichi the Earless called that because his ears were ripped off by ghosts. I'm finding this stuff out. Anyway, even though it doesn't really make sense, these two intensely lower mid-card guys open up the second biggest show of the year. It's a really nice little match, the kind of indie-like cruiserweight bout that WCW would open all of its pay-per-views with in the mid-90s. Impressive athleticism from both guys, especially Hakushi, flipping over the ropes like he's in Rev Pro. Not a scrap of story on it, but fun and fast. Number 9, the Brainbusters versus the Hart Foundation, 1989. Hey look, you get to see Arn Anderson with hair. Kind of, that's like spotting a unicorn. Hard to imagine these guys having a bad match, to be honest, and if you'd like to see FTR's beloved dads go to work with some old school heel tag chicanery, this is for you. I mean, it's one half of the best formulation of the Four Horsemen versus the best technical team in the Hulkamania era. FTR probably thinks this match should be taught in schools instead of maths. It's an oldie, so do try to temper your expectations for spectacle, but that doesn't mean it's slow. Far from it, especially from Bret setting the stage for his singles run that began properly 2 years later at SummerSlam 91. It's amazing how much compelling drama you can squeeze out of very little when you act like A, tags are really important, you need to prevent them at all times, and B, tag match rules are really strict, so when the heels bend them, for example, covering their own head so the ref can't tell the illegal man is making the pin, this match is like fiber, get it down ya, it's good for ya. Number 8, Edge versus Lance Storm, 2001. You truly hate to see Canadians fight. It's like watching kittens spread rumours about each other or dogs cheat at cards. Doesn't really make sense, and they're better than this. Anyway, SummerSlam 2001, one of the very best SummerSlams, just by the way, and it's all invasion all the time, which is a shame because all the constant title changes of the period dilute what's otherwise a signature singles win, with Edge nabbing Lance Storm's IC title. Attitude era crowd, Heyman and JR on commentary, 2 very gifted wrestlers, especially Storm at this time. It's no surprise this is great. A little short at only 11 minutes, an extra 5 would have really taken it over the top, but it's really good, clean, face-heel IC title wrestling with a bit of sports entertainment thrown in there in the form of Christian almost accidentally costing his then brother the match, slowly spinning those wheels for that heel turn and leading to a great false finish at that. Number 7, the British Bulldogs versus the Fabulous Rougeaus, 1988. Did you know that since its inception, every single SummerSlam for 5 years opened with a tag match? I know, isn't that half interesting? AEW may have brought time limit draws back into booking fashion, but the brass balls of WWE to open the first ever SummerSlam, the first of a brand new pay-per-view format, with a 20-minute tag team time limit draw. And it's good. Much like the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs were an amazing team as they combined one of the most acclaimed technical wrestlers of the day and his big, dumb, strong friend, and that dynamic really works. Dynamite Kid zipping around all over the place, and then Davey Boy Smith just throwing dudes into space. Also, their dog Matilda had her own little table set up at ringside. It's fucking darling. Also, the Rougeaus are intensely gifted and charismatic heels, cutting off the ring, constantly little bits of cheating or hugging each other like French perverts. This all works gangbusters, and the crowd love all of it, even after 20 minutes. You'd never guess that both teams absolutely despised each other behind the scenes, with Jacques Rougeau punching 4 of Dynamite Kid's teeth out weeks later. Fun wrestling. Number 6, Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler, 2009. Some things you need to get used to hearing from this point on the list. Dolph Ziggler and Intercontinental Championship. WWE certainly has a thing they like to do with Dolph. Well, two things if you can't make him go out there and have a moan. WWE have opened SummerSlam with Dolph Ziggler fighting for the Intercontinental Championship 4 times: 2009, 2010, 2014, and 2018. There's a reason for this. He's really good at IC title matches because that's when they give him 10 minutes or more to bump around like a slinky and work his ass off. And speaking of slinkies, hey, Rey Mysterio's in this one too. It's good then. The two men have excellent chemistry, whether it's Dolph pitching Rey onto the turnbuckle only for him to moonsault right back onto him, or Rey Hurricane Ranaing Ziggler into a cameraman. They're great together, and it's cool to see Ziggler both act as a power base for Rey, but also be super athletic in his bumps too. Really good flow to the match, some great near falls. No wonder WWE felt they could rely on Zigglypuff. Number 5, Becky Lynch versus Natalya 2019. You heard me. I'm not Natalya's biggest fan. She doesn't quite feel real. Watching her cut a promo is like watching an animatronic at Epcot try to convince you that it's people or a cat. But you can see why WWE keep her around. She's a reliable hand who can occasionally turn out a classic. See also her NXT match with Charlotte and this match against Becky Lynch, who could probably turn out a great SummerSlam match against a bucket of paint. It's a submission match with a slightly curious addition to the stipulation that in this case, rope breaks don't count, which they probably only put in there so they could do the sharpshooter tied up in the turnbuckle spot, which admittedly looks pretty damn great. The Canadian fans are into it too, and what follows is an aggressive and smart match as Natalya targets Becky's left knee, softening her up for the sharpshooter, even though it's more of a lower back submission hold, but shush, and Becky actually remembers to sell it, and that helps. The match builds until both women are trying to lock in the sharpshooter. Yay Canada, yay that's where we're from, before Becky can lock in the disarmer for the win. It's great stuff. Number 4, Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler 2012. Hello Dolph, good to see you again. This match, which is bafflingly not for the Intercontinental Championship, considering that both men have been hot glue to the f***ing thing over their careers, is from SummerSlam 2012, and it's just swell. The show-off was currently Mr. Ziggy in the Dolph, and Jericho was on his way out of the company for probably some sort of Fozzy-related reason. While this match should have served as a passing of the torch between braggadocious blonde wangs, for some unknown reason, Y2J wins this match, with WWE saving his loser leaves WWE loss to a random episode of SmackDown. Dumb that. Anyway, the match is great, the two men telling a tale around if Jericho can still go, especially with visibly injured ribs. It builds some excellent near falls, including a small package after incredibly loud Vicky Guerrero interference before Jericho scores the win. And hey, it was probably Dolph's time, but also Jericho won with a fucking proper knee to the head lion tamer, so that's an instant 5 stars. Number 3, Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch 2022, the first official pay-per-view of the Triple H era, the first official pay-per-view match of the Triple H era, and not only was it a barnstormer, but afterwards Bayley returned and look, she's got some new friends. Dakota Kai and Io Sky had a face-off with Becky and Bianca, and while Damage Control definitely wasn't all plain sailing, what a moment. Anyway, the match, which is the final heel act of a year-long heel run of big-time Becks, after making everyone very cross with their non-match match at SummerSlam 2021, and making everyone very happy during their excellent Mania 38 match, Becky and Bianca close out their feud with another excellent fight, a feat made even more impressive by the fact that holy shit, Becky Lynch separated her shoulder during it, not even towards the end, like 3 minutes into a 15-minute match. That's so many more minutes. Not to worry, she moves to the outside, pops it back in, on she goes, immediately getting hoisted up for a KOD on the outside. Becky Lynch is fucking nails. Belair's home state of Tennessee are super into it as both women's excellent chemistry escalates through a series of ponytail-based offense until Bianca scores the decisive win. Fight forever, 5 claps. Number 2, Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler 2018. Dolph Ziggler wrestling in the opening match of SummerSlam for the Intercontinental title. All is right with the world. And this is by far the best of his SummerSlam matches. Hell, along with that match with The Miz, this might be Dolph's best match. Why? Well, he's great, but he's also wrestling Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins in Intercontinental title scene mode, aka the best Seth Rollins, dressed tonight like Thanos, albeit with a golden curb-stomping boot instead of a golden glove, you delightful dork, Seth. And holy shit, who's that with him? That's Jon Moxley! That's not Dean Ambrose, that is Jon goddamn Moxley there at ringside. The match goes an insane 22 minutes, making it the longest opening match in SummerSlam history. The first SummerSlam match we mentioned way down this list, the one that was a time limit draw, that was 2 minutes shorter than this match. And while some might see it as too long, these are some super workers in there, and by the time the match gets to the final 5 minutes, the crowd are white hot for it. Great googly moogly. It's like watching the anime version of Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, only with an inverted superplex transitioning into a reverse Falcon Arrow spot. Silly, beautiful boys. And number 1, Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle 2002. Hee, clap, clap. Look, I know Rollins Ziggler is probably technically better, and I can't wait wait to hear all about that when I watch the top 10 list that you make, but this is my favorite SummerSlam opener ever. Hell, probably my favorite opening match ever. In his prime, Rey Mysterio. In his super prime, Kurt Angle, wrestling for a 10-minute sprint. Yes, absolutely, please. Kurt Angle is my favorite wrestler precisely for matches like this. The action is so crisp, so clean, there's barely a blown spot in the whole thing, and even though it never really slows down, there's so much character in it. What could be a storyless exhibition match made so much more compelling by Angle's pompous refusal to admit that the man half his weight might just be able to keep up with him, and keep up with him Mysterio does. God damn, SmackDown's mid-card was insane in 2002, and this was basically the first proper glimpse of that. Two pillars of the SmackDown 6 wrestling in a match that packs a huge amount of fun into what's actually closer to 9 minutes, setting the stage for an insane tag match featuring both men at No Mercy 02, still one of the best tag matches of all time. And that's our list. What's your favorite SummerSlam opening match? Let us know about it in the comments. Don't forget to check out last week's list of biggest mistakes WWE made with SummerSlam, which you can hear a bit of now. No, I am not going to talk about Diesel and Mabel again. As per my list of matches, I want to stop talking about. I am done with that mudslide of bollocks, and we should talk about things that have not been discussed into a shallow grave. SummerSlam season is upon us as WWE attempts to put together a card that can compete with going out for a nice walk on a beautiful summer's evening, and as I get older...